1,000-pound sisters bombshell. Chris Combs quits reality TV. Emotional 2025 confession shocks fans now. The weight loss journey of Kentucky brother Chris Combs on TLC's 1,000-pound sisters has been a captivating and inspirational arc for millions of viewers. He was the grounded, no-nonsense older brother with a booming, infectious laugh who stepped in to mediate explosive family feuds with a rare blend of tough love and genuine warmth. He became, for many, the heart and soul of the show, the unsung hero of the Slaton family saga, a narrative repeatedly shaped by the chaos of his famous sisters, Amy and Tammy Slaton. After years of struggle, Chris finally realized his health dreams, achieving an incredible transformation that saw him drop over 200 pounds from his highest weight, undergo life-saving bariatric surgery, and ultimately receive approval for the skin removal surgery that was the final piece of his physical metamorphosis. He was no longer the man battling food addiction and insulin shots. He was the man running 5 Burmese chots and chasing culinary dreams with a new food truck business. His story felt like the most triumphant, feel-good arc on a reality TV show that has seen its share of heartbreak. But as 2025 unfolded, a quiet unease began to ripple through the fanbase. Observant followers of the show noticed a gradual but distinct shift in Chris's public presence. The man who had once been the most reliable source of level-headed commentary was pulling back. He disappeared from social media for weeks at a time, his once active Instagram account falling silent, leaving fans speculating and wondering what was happening behind the scenes. Simultaneously, as the show's 7th season aired, viewers were struck by a stark reality. Chris Combs was being systematically sidelined. The man who had arguably achieved the most significant and consistent health transformation was fading into the background, his weight loss milestones barely mentioned, and his valuable commentary on his sisters' chaotic lives edited to near irrelevance. It was a confusing and frustrating development for fans. Where was Chris? Had something happened? Had he hit a plateau? Or worse, had he regained weight? The rumors began to swirl, the gossip sites buzzing with a range of theories. Now, in an unprecedented and deeply emotional 2025 confession that has sent shockwaves through the reality TV world, Chris Combs has broken his silence, not to address rumors of weight gain or family drama, but to reveal a truth far more profound. He has quit 1,000-pound sisters. He walked away from the show that made him a beloved figure, the cameras, the paycheck, and the fame. In a stunning, heartfelt, and characteristically honest outpouring, Chris has revealed the real, complicated, and deeply personal reasons behind his decision. This is the story of how the man who was the show's anchor realized that to truly save himself, he had to let go of the very thing that saved him. Chapter 1. The Anchor in the Storm. From his very first appearance, Chris Combs stood out. While his sisters' lives often unfolded as a whirlwind of high-stakes medical emergencies, screaming matches, and seemingly impossible odds, Chris was the reliable older brother, the anchor holding the family together during the wildest storms. Fans loved his unfiltered, unapologetic Kentucky humor. He was the one who would sit in his confessional, look directly into the camera, and deliver a hilarious one-liner about his sister's latest antics, without missing a beat. Yet his own story was one of immense personal struggle, lived quietly in the shadow of his more dramatic siblings. Before the show, Chris was not just overweight. He was morbidly obese, living a life of pain, limitation, and fear. At his heaviest, he tipped the scales at over 450 pounds. Every day was a physical challenge. Before weight loss surgery, I couldn't even fit in a van, he would later recall, a simple statement that spoke volumes about the imprisonment of his own body. Even more terrifyingly, he was taking up to 5 insulin shots a day to manage his diabetes, his body crying out for help under the crushing weight of his condition. The mirror reflected a man he did not want to be, and his future felt terrifyingly short. The catalyst for change was not the show, nor the prospect of fame, but a devastating family tragedy. Chris watched his own father, a man who also struggled with his weight, die from obesity-related complications at just 57 years old. The chilling realization that he was on the exact same path, at nearly the same age his father had been when he passed, was the wake-up call he couldn't ignore. "The main reason I want surgery is because my dad passed away at age 57, he confessed, his voice heavy with a lifetime of memories. He was not just fighting for himself. He was fighting to break a generational curse, to give his own children and grandchildren a father and grandfather who would be around for years to come. His daughter was beginning to struggle with her own weight, and Chris knew the most powerful lesson he could teach her was not through words, but through the example of his own transformation. This was the man who entered the 1,000-pound sister's narrative not as a protagonist, but as a pillar of support. He was a McDonald's manager, a husband, a father, a brother, and a man determined to reclaim his life from the brink of catastrophe. His journey was never about becoming a reality TV star. It was about survival. Chapter 2. The Transformation of a Lifetime. Chris Combs's weight loss journey is arguably the most successful and linear of any cast member on the show. His path was not without its ups and downs, but it was marked by a quiet, stubborn determination that set him apart. He underwent gastric bypass surgery in 2022, a pivotal moment that supercharged his efforts. The results were astonishing. Within a year of his surgery, he lost nearly 150 pounds, and soon after, he crossed the finish line of a 5K run, a feat that would have been utterly impossible just a few years prior. His doctor, Dr. Eric Smith, celebrated the milestone publicly, sharing striking before and after photos of a proud Chris running. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional and mental. However, his rapid weight loss came with a unique set of challenges. The dramatic shedding of hundreds of pounds left him with significant amounts of loose excess skin. This wasn't merely a cosmetic issue. It presented real health risks, including painful infections and hygiene problems. The extra weight of the skin itself also made it difficult to move, hindering further exercise. For Chris, skin removal surgery became not a luxury, but a medical necessity to complete his journey and protect his newfound health. But getting approval for the surgery was its own ordeal, a tense and emotional arc for fans. During Season 6, when he stepped on the scale expecting to have lost more weight, he was devastated to learn he had plateaued. His doctor refused to approve the surgery, ordering him to lose an additional 60 pounds first. It was a crushing blow, but Chris did what Chris does best. He got back to work. He tightened his diet, pushed himself harder at the gym, and refused to give up. His persistence paid off. In a triumphant moment broadcast during Season 6, he finally had the surgery. The results were breathtaking. After his recovery, photos emerged on social media showing a Chris Combs who was nearly unrecognizable from the man who first appeared on the show. His face was strikingly slim, his body lean and chiseled. Chris' skin removal is the icing on his weight loss journey's cake, his doctor proudly stated. At his last stable weigh-in, he was down to 250 pounds, having lost over 200 pounds from his highest weight, an absolutely monumental achievement. For the first time in his adult life, Chris Combs was truly free. Chapter 3. A Fast Food Love Story. Throughout this incredible physical and emotional upheaval, there was one constant by his side, his wife, Brittany Combs. Their love story, a wholesome and heartwarming tale, was itself a massive fan favorite. The two met while working together at McDonald's, both as managers, where their friendship gradually blossomed into romance. They tied the knot in October 2016 and had been going strong ever since, a beacon of stability in a show famous for its unstable relationships. Brittany, with her quiet, soft-spoken demeanor, was the perfect counterbalance to Chris's boisterous energy and his family's often chaotic loudness. She was observant, calm, and fiercely loyal, earning a reputation among fans as a bad *SS for her ability to navigate the Slaton family drama with grace. She shared Chris's strong Christian values, and together they presented a united front of traditional, old-school commitment. Brittany even embarked on her own quiet weight loss journey, supporting her husband not just with encouragement, but through her own example of dedication to health. Their shared life was a core reason for Chris's success. In a 2024 interview, Chris himself credited his family, and especially his wife, as the driving force behind his transformation. But as his journey progressed and his health stabilized, a new, more personal dream began to form, having a child together. During Season 7, Brittany tearfully opened up about their struggle to conceive naturally and her desire to become a mother. The couple had faced fertility issues, a painful and private struggle that was now, inevitably, being discussed on national television. Chris, ever the supportive husband, comforted her, revealing his own desire to fulfill her dream of a family. For the couple, having a baby was the logical, beautiful next chapter in their story, a story that seemed to be moving further and further away from the drama of reality TV. Chapter 4. Fractures in the Foundation. While Chris was building a new life of health, love, and quiet ambition, his role on 1,000-Pound Sisters began to feel increasingly uncomfortable. The family dynamics that once made for compelling television were starting to take a personal toll. A major source of tension was his relationship with his youngest sister, Tammy Slaton. Throughout the show's history, Chris had been one of Tammy's most vocal advocates, but also one of her toughest critics, refusing to enable her self-destructive behavior. Yet, as the seasons progressed, some fans began to label him an enabler, arguing that his constant support was preventing Tammy from truly standing on her own 2 feet. He was damned if he helped and damned if he didn't. Then came the living situation. To help Tammy as she continued her weight loss journey and required more support, Chris made the monumental decision to move his sister into his own home. It was a decision that was classic Chris, putting family first no matter the cost. But on the show, it was clear this was putting a severe strain on his marriage. Cameras captured the unspoken tension, the sidelong glances, and the clipped conversations between Chris and Brittany as they tried to navigate having a third, extremely high-maintenance person in their private space. Brittany, who valued her privacy and her peace, was visibly unhappy with the arrangement. Off-camera, the situation was even more fraught. Chris found himself torn between his duty as a husband and his duty as a brother, a no-win scenario that was being played out for the entertainment of millions. This pressure was compounded by a new development that seemed to catch Chris completely off guard. The show's production began pushing a narrative that he was not the protagonist of his own story. As the sisters' drama, particularly Tammy's upcoming skin removal surgery and Amy's legal troubles, escalated, Chris's screen time was drastically cut. The man who had lost over 200 pounds, who had run a 5K, who had fought for and won skin removal surgery, was relegated to the background, his appearances limited to brief reaction shots or offering a few words of advice before the focus returned to his sister's crises. Season 7 was particularly glaring in its sidelining of Chris. The show had been his platform, his means of sharing his inspirational story with the world, but now it felt like he was being used merely as a prop in someone else's narrative. Chapter 5. The 2025 Confession. Why he had to walk away. It was against this backdrop of personal friction and professional marginalization that Chris Combs made his bombshell decision. In an exclusive, deeply emotional 2025 confession, the reality star announced his departure from 1,000-Pound Sisters, sending shockwaves through the fandom. His statement, released via a heartfelt social media post and a subsequent interview, was not the angry tirade of a disgruntled cast member, but the honest, vulnerable reflection of a man who had simply had enough. His confession centered on the realization that the show, which had once been a tool for his salvation, had become a threat to his happiness. The constant drama, the forced interventions in his sisters' lives, and the pressure to perform for the cameras were, he admitted, jeopardizing the very things he had fought so hard to achieve. His marriage, his peace of mind, and his physical health. He spoke eloquently about the importance of his faith and his desire to live a grounded, authentic life, away from the sensationalism and manufactured conflict of reality TV. In a particularly powerful moment, Chris revealed that his decision was also about his future dreams of fatherhood. He and Brittany were still hoping to have a baby, and he refused to raise a child in the toxic, chaotic environment that the show had become. He wanted his family to be built on a foundation of love and privacy, not on a foundation of ratings and tabloid headlines. Walking away from the show was, in his own words, the final and most important step in his long journey toward genuine health. This was the core of his bombshell. Chris Combs was not quitting because he had failed. He was quitting because he had succeeded. He had achieved his weight loss goals, he had repaired his relationship with food, and he had found a new purpose in his food truck business and his marriage. The show had served its purpose, and to stay any longer would be to risk losing everything he had gained. The reaction from the 1,000-pound sisters fanbase was immediate and overwhelming. Social media platforms were flooded with messages of shock, sadness, and unwavering support. Many fans expressed that the show had just lost its heart and soul. Without Chris's level-headed commentary and his grounding presence, many questioned whether the show could survive. Some even called for TLC to cancel the series outright, arguing that the remaining cast members, with their increasingly dysfunctional drama, could no longer carry the show. Within the Slaton family, Chris's departure has created a seismic shift. While his sisters have publicly expressed their support for his decision, insiders suggest there is a great deal of tension behind the scenes. With Chris no longer present to mediate their explosive fights, the sisters are now forced to confront each other directly, leading to even more bitter and public feuds. His absence leaves a gaping hole in the family dynamic, and only time will tell if the remaining siblings can find a way forward without their beloved older brother. As for Chris Combs, he is embracing his new life away from the cameras with the same quiet determination that fueled his weight loss. He continues to run his food truck business, a symbol of his freedom and his newfound joy in living life on his own terms. He and Brittany are focusing on their marriage and their health, sharing the occasional, simple update on social media that is met with an outpouring of love from fans who continue to root for them. His journey has come full circle, from a man imprisoned by his own body to a man who has freed himself from the very show that documented his liberation. Chris Combs's bombshell confession is not just a headline. It is a powerful testament to the idea that the greatest reality show of all is the one you choose to live, authentically and privately, for yourself. The silence after Chris Combs' bombshell announcement was deafening. For nearly a week, the reality TV world held its collective breath. Social media platforms that had once buzzed with speculation and support became echo chambers of stunned disbelief. Fans who had followed Chris from his first awkward, hilarious confessional to his triumphant skin removal surgery now faced a single, unthinkable truth. The anchor of 1,000 LbSisters had voluntarily cut himself loose. No network drama, no contract dispute, no scandalous behind-the-scenes leak. Just a man, a keyboard, and a confession so raw it felt like a wound. But as the initial shock began to settle, the real story emerged, not from Chris's carefully worded statement, but from the ripples it sent through every corner of his world. The Slaton family, already a pressure cooker of unresolved trauma, addiction, and fame, began to crack in ways no one could have predicted. The show's production team scrambled to salvage what remained of Season 8. And Chris Combs, the man who had spent years shouting his sisters back from the edge, found himself standing in the quietest room of his life, wondering if he had done the right thing. This is the final chapter, the aftermath, the reckoning, and the beginning of something Chris never allowed himself to imagine, a life entirely his own. It started with a single post. On a cold Tuesday morning in February 2025, Chris Combs logged into his Instagram account, an account he had neglected for months, letting it gather digital dust, and typed out a message that would be screenshotted, shared, and dissected by thousands within hours. To everyone who has supported me, laughed with me, and cheered me on through the hardest years of my life, I owe you the truth. After a lot of prayer, sleepless nights, and honest talks with my wife, I have decided to leave 1,000 LbSisters. This isn't a break. I am done. Reality TV gave me a platform to change my life, and I will always be grateful. But it also took things I didn't know I was giving away. My peace. My privacy. The quiet moments with Brittany that should never have been filmed. I need to be a husband first. I need to be a father someday. And I can't do any of that with cameras in my face. Please respect our decision. I love you all. Chris. Within 15 minutes, fan accounts had reposted the message. Within an hour, entertainment news outlets from People to TMZ had published breaking alerts. The hashtag #JusticeForChris trended in the United States for 6 hours. Fans who had grown up watching the Slaton siblings battle their demons suddenly realized they had been watching something else entirely, a good man being slowly erased from his own story. But the most telling reaction came not from the public, but from the people Chris left behind. Amy Slaton, fresh off her own legal troubles and struggling to co-parent her 2 young sons, posted a tearful video response that was later deleted. "I'm heartbroken," she said, her voice cracking. "Chris was the one who held me together when I thought I was going to lose everything. I don't know how we do this without him." The video, even in its deleted state, was archived by fans and re-uploaded dozens of times. In it, Amy's eyes were hollow, her usual humor absent. She looked, for the first time in years, genuinely lost. Tammy Slaton, who had been in a fragile state of recovery following her own skin removal surgery and ongoing battles with food addiction, chose a different path. Whether 1,000 Pound Sisters returns for a 9th season or fades into the annals of